Hi everyone, my name is Aileen Santos, and for the section 2 book assignment, I decided to focus on Stelluna, which is written and illustrated by Janell Cannon. And the reason why I picked this book is because I do remember a high school teacher of mine mentioning this book in my children's literature class. She mentioned this book a lot, saying that it was one of her favorite books to read to her grandchildren and children. And I can see why. After reading about it and doing my research about it, the message is really, really cute. The overall message about this book is introducing diversity and differences between friendships and families, and that it's okay that even though everybody looks different, they feel the same emotions. The story plot of this book is focusing on Stelluna, which is the fruit bat located on the front cover. We basically accompany Stelluna throughout her journey from a baby bat to a grown adult bat, and how she overcomes different challenges, and how she just learns to adapt and then find herself after all those challenges. At the beginning of the story, we are introduced to Stelluna and her mom, as seen in the picture, like this. A point that I want to point out is that throughout the book, there's one side of the page that is solely focusing on the pictures, the illustrations, and then the other side is solely focusing on the words. And as you can see, the section 2 book is much different than the section 1 book, because the section 2 books have more words to them and less pictures. So even though there are pictures like the section 1 book, there is an increase in words, because this book is more for 4 to 8-year-olds. So it can range from kinder to like 2nd grade-ish. And this is great for all grade levels between that area. In the second page, we learned that Stelluna and her mother have been separated because an owl attacked them. And Stelluna falls out of her mom's wings, and she begins to hang on a branch all by herself. And she calls out for the mother bat, but the mother bat is nowhere to be seen. And she loses grip and ends up falling into the nest of baby birds. So here's Stelluna, and then here's the baby birds. And then, out of survival, Stelluna begins to adapt to the ways of the bird, including their eating habits. So a fruit bat, which is what Stelluna is, they normally their main meals are fruits. And out of necessity of surviving, Stelluna ate a grasshopper, which is not something that fruit bats eat, but she was hungry and she wanted to live. This quote in the book says, "Stelluna was terribly hungry, but not for the crawly things Mama Bird brought. Finally, though the little bat could bear it no longer, she climbed into the nest, closed her eyes, and opened her mouth. Plop! In dropped a big green grasshopper." Again, the words are on one side, and then the illustrations are on the other. Still pretty big to see, but not as many illustrations compared to a book meant for younger students or younger readers. So throughout the story, we do learn that Stelluna slowly begins to lose her bat instincts, and eventually almost completely adapts to a bird's living, except for one. Stelluna still sleeps hanging by her feet. That is something that she's instinctively supposed to be doing as bats. So here we can see Stelluna sleeping upside down, hanging upside down, but obviously with her bird siblings, they also become curious and decide to try it out. And here are all 4 of them hanging upside down, sleeping. And then Mama Bird comes along and gets very angry, because obviously birds don't hang upside down. That's just the way a bat lives. And Mama Bird tells Stelluna, "You are teaching my children to do bad things. I will not let you back into this nest unless you promise to obey all the rules of this house." So Stelluna promised. She ate bugs without making faces, she slept in the nest at night, and she didn't hang by her feet. Stelluna behaved as a good bird should. So here, I like how this illustration really focuses on the anger that Mama Bird feels and the fear that Stelluna portrays because of this interaction. She's a little confused. She's facing identity confusion, which I think children this age probably aren't aware of that. So I think that's a good aspect to include in the book. But then again, it could lead to children being a little bit confused. So I would kind of consider that like a weakness of the book. But a big strength of this book was definitely the big pictures and introducing diversity within families and friendships, which we do learn more as we go into the book. So as the birds are growing and as Stelluna is growing as well, they begin to fly and leave the nest. But the way a bat flies and the way a bird flies is quite different. Big difference is birds fly in the day and bats fly at night. But Stelluna is learning to adapt to the bird's life, even though that is not the life that she is supposed to be living by nature. Because Stelluna is a bat who should sleep during the day and be awake during the night. But it's quite the opposite when she is living with the birds. She is adapting to their ways of living. I like how there's a bunch of little images here to introduce the fact that Stelluna does struggle to fly along with the birds who do fly during the daytime and not at night, like how bats are supposed to be doing. We get a closer up looks to Stelluna and her facial expressions, which I think Janell Cannon did a really good job on expressing her expressions, because we're able to understand how Stelluna is feeling. Slowly but surely, Stelluna begins to explore different ways of living. She begins to fly during the nighttime, while her bird siblings are like, oh, we can't fly during the night because we can't see. But Stelluna is slowly stepping out of her comfort zone, which is the bird's way of living, and she soon discovers her true identity, which is a fruit bat and not a bird. She comes across another fruit bat while Stelluna is sleeping, hanging by her thumbs, because Mama Bird told her, you're not supposed to be sleeping upside down. You have to sleep the right side up like a bird, but she's not a bird. And she comes across a bat and tells her, hey, you're sleeping upside down. You're not supposed to do that. We're bats. We sleep right side up, which I guess is upside down, but in their case is right side up because they hang by their feet. She does soon begin to interact with other bats, and she does eventually come across her mother, and they share their stories, and Stelluna shares the fact that she ate bugs and she slept at night, and how she got separated from her mom at birth, or not at birth, but as a baby. And she begins to explore the natural ways of living as a bat, and she begins to eat what she's supposed to be eating, which is fruit, as we can see in this image here. And then she begins flying at night, and she realizes that she can see at night because bats are supposed to be sleeping during the day and flying at night. Something that I really liked about this book is that after Stelluna learns about the real ways a fruit bat should live, which is what she is, she goes and tells her bird siblings everything that she heard and she learned. And then the bird siblings do realize that they are different. They say, there's a quote that I really like that they mentioned. It says, how can we be so different and feel so much alike? And how can we feel so different and be so much alike? At first, reading this, it can be a little confusing, but it's basically saying that even though they are different species, they feel the same emotions. And even though sometimes they feel different, they are very much alike in some aspects. So they both fly. Both bats and birds do fly, but in different ways and at different times. They eat differently, but as you can see here, they are still little siblings together, even though they are different. And something that I really liked at the end of this book is that it includes fun little facts about bats. And I think it's a really good way to introduce bats to children, especially because a bat is not a creature that they usually come across of, unlike a pet or an animal at the zoo. An activity that you could do with your class based on this book is making a Venn diagram explaining the differences and similarities between bats and birds, which is really interesting because, again, we learn about birds in school, but we don't really mention bats. They don't really know. Students don't really come across that information. So I think this is a really good idea for that. For maybe older students, deciding on the order of the book in the correct way or the correct sequence is a really good idea because it ensures students are focusing on the storyline and like the plot and the order of everything, and that could help them with that. And then opening up a discussion about differences between friendships and families, and how even though we look different, we do all feel the same emotions, whether that's happiness, anger, anxiousness, excitement, whatever emotion you think of or you feel, they feel it too. Maybe not necessarily the bats, but between people in their families and friendships. So I think that is a really good idea to include in the book. I think this book is a really appropriate one for children of all ages, really. And the art is also really easy to read. It's not super cartoony. It does show some realistic features within their characters, but for the most part it is pretty easy to read and easy to understand. So this book would definitely fall into fiction picture books for children, with the message of diversity is okay, and even though we look different, we feel the same emotions, and that's okay. This was Stelluna, written and illustrated by Janell Cannon.